Yeah, fool. You know how we do it. West side, coming from the west side. Nothing but the west side. Ain't nothing going on but the bomb rap song hitting all night long. Just like me on the black and white ivory, getting 6 on a T-to-leap. You don't wanna see a G break your gills like dishes. Buster tricks, sleep with the fishes. Running from Lennox up at Venice. They wanna have me in stripes like Dennis the Menace, but that ain't poppin', ain't no stopping. Faux hopping, ass dropping, Coupe de Ville. My truth can heal. Fool, I got skills. So back on up, boy, I check that chin down and I'm full off hand. You gets no love, and I thought you knew it. Fool, you know how we do it. Coming from the west side, coming from the west side. Chillin' with the homies, smelling the bud. Double park, then I'm talking to Dub about who got a plan, who got a plot, who got, and who got shot. Cause everybody knows that he got the info. Crazy tunes hanging out the window. Fool, I got them bomb tapes, the lynch mob, Planet of the Apes. I'm down with 8, and what's up? Cam and Solo, they got nuts.
We just wanna party, party just for you. We just wanna party, party just for you. Party just for you. We gotta dance, dance and shake the breeze. We just wanna party, party just for you. We just wanna party, party just for you. Party just for you.
Shot rang out. Kapaya. We have information that King has been shot at the Lindsay Lorraine area report of a shooting. Taking in, we have information that the shot came from a brick building directly west. And the subject ran only 30. The young white male, well dressed, possibly in a late model white Mustang with north on Main Street.
What's up, STEM family? Guess what? It's February, Black History Month. I appreciate this opportunity to say a few words for this assembly. But let it be known, Mr. Lewis celebrates Black History Month 24/7, 365. Black History Month is the acknowledgement and celebration of a people, proud people, Black people. It's a celebration of our history, our culture, and our contribution. It's a celebration to give everyone to understand the important role that Black folks play in the larger narrative of what makes America, America. Are you aware that most of the essential things you see or touch in your daily lives were invented by Black folks? The ironing board, the refrigerator, baby carriages, mass production of shoes, the traffic signal, incandescent light bulbs, mailboxes, and even golf tees, among many, many other The focus and theme this year of Black History Month is the Black family. We have come a long way, but Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, and numerous incidents of racial injustice are evidence that a long way is yet to come for us to truly overcome. But overcome we shall. We celebrate Black History Month proudly, acknowledging our history, our culture, and our contributions.
Hey guys, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Falashade Alfred. Now, before we get started into our next segment, I just want to speak on how grateful I am to live in this day and age. As a Black woman, there can be internal and external struggles. But then I'm reminded of the Black women who came before me, who experienced the same struggles and more, and persevered through it all. And it's inspiring to look back in the past, find out what their milestones were, and using it as a reference to encourage other young Black women like me. That's why I love Black History Month, because it's not always about the pain we've endured, but it's about how we turned it into a motivation to become successful trailblazers then and now. Even though we've come a long way, they've only started from scratch, meaning we have to finish the job that needs to be done. And as a Black woman, I feel like I have this responsibility to be just as achievable and influential as the ones who've created the blueprint. As much as I would like to, we can't cover up the whole history of Black women in this video. We will cover what we can. With that being said, we will now be showing and talking about prominent African American women and their significance in Black history.
That man over there says that women need to be helped in the carriages and lifted over ditches and to have the best place everywhere. Nobody ever helps me in the carriages or over mud puddles or gives me any best place. And ain't I a woman? Look at me. Look at my arm. I've plowed and planted and gathered into barns, and no man could head me. And ain't I a woman? I could work as much and eat as much as a man when I could get it, and bear the lashes well. And ain't I a woman? I have borne 13 children and seen most all sold off to slavery. And when I cried out with my mother's grief, none but Jesus heard me. And ain't I a woman? Then they talk about this thing in the head. What's they call it? Intellect? That's it, honey. What's that got to do with women's rights or Negroes' rights? If my cup won't hold but a pint and yours holds a quart, wouldn't you be mean not to let me have a little half measure full? And that little man back there, he says women can't have as much rights as men because Christ wasn't a woman. Where did your Christ come from? From God and a woman. Man had nothing to do with him. If the first woman God ever made was strong enough to turn the world upside down all alone, these women together ought to be able to turn it back and get it right side up again. And now they is asking to do it. The men better let them. Obliged to you for hearing me. And now old Sojourner ain't got nothing more to say.
taking over the world. Let me raise a glass for the college grads. 41 rolling to let you know what time it is. Check, you can't hold me. I work my 9 to 5, better cut my check. This goes up to all the women getting it in. You want your grind. To all the men that respect what I do, please accept my shine. Boy, you know you love it. How we smart enough to make these millions, strong enough to bear the children. Then get back to business. Please, you better not play me. Oh, come here, baby. Hope you still like me if you pay me. My persuasion can build a nation. Endless power. Without love, we can devour. You'll do anything for me. Who run the world, girls? Who run the world?
This is the Cape Coast Castle in Ghana, West Africa, where enslaved Africans were shipped to the Caribbean, to North America, and other places in the world. From this castle, on the average, 10,000 enslaved Africans were shipped year by year. Altogether, about 60 million Africans were enslaved. Whoever went through this door had no chance of coming back. That is why this door got the name, the Door of No Return.
Hello, STEM. This is Mr. Barnett. Hopefully you're having a wonderful assembly. Now let's talk quickly about the Harlem Renaissance. Now, first of all, if you forgot what the term Renaissance means, I want you to go to Ms. Garcia and apologize right now. But it essentially means rebirth, and that's exactly what happened for many African Americans and some Afro-Caribbeans in the Harlem neighborhood of 1920s New York City. After several hundred years of slavery and decades worth of oppression afterwards, in a movement out of the South to other parts of the country known as the Great Migration, African Americans moved up north and out west. One of these places was New York City, especially the Harlem area in Manhattan. Harlem in the early 1800s was a district for wealthy and affluent whites. But during the late 19th century, many poor immigrants from Eastern and Southern Europe began to move in nearby and eventually into the neighborhood itself. This had the effect of driving the wealthy away and opened up the neighborhood for anyone willing to try to make a life for themselves. Eventually, World War I broke out in 1914, and it would have two effects on the neighborhood itself. One, it halted the influx of immigrants from Europe. Two, New York City as a whole increased its demand for labor to produce supplies for the war effort in Europe and eventually for the United States itself. But Harlem did not only attract Black labor. During the decades from 1910 to 1930, entrepreneurs, real estate investors, social and religious organizations, intellectuals, and many others from the Black community came, created businesses, invested in the neighborhood, and sought a better future. Harlem was a bustling place filled with every economic and social background of the African American experience. But there is one main reason why this era was called Renaissance: the creation of its art, and also allowed a platform for expressing culture. Zora Neale Hurston's work, Their Eyes Were Watching God, challenged the status quo of African American and women's expectations in early 20th century society. Langston Hughes pioneered jazz poetry and won many awards and degrees for his talent in writing. The paintings of William Edward Scott contrasted with those of Norman Lewis, Aaron Douglas, and others, and fostered different views on how to depict Black lives. The music genres of blues, gospel spirituals, and Southern brass jazz combined to form the Harlem style of jazz. This style was entertaining, lively, and innovative. Individuals and bands sprung up to fill the nightclubs. Lucky Roberts, James P. Johnson, Florence Mills, and band leaders like Duke Ellington helped to further the popularity of the music. This style of jazz would later become the precursor to rhythm and blues and would inspire the genres of rock and hip hop. Jazz even became so popular that it would go beyond the community and bring in people from all racial and ethnic groups. This, however, did have some consequences. There were those who wanted to exploit the art coming out of Harlem. Several white novelists and artists, for example, began to copy some of the songs and poetic verses into their own works, often without giving any form of credit or compensation. Some clubs, such as the Cotton Club, was for whites only, and allowed its customers to enjoy the music and theater of the Harlem Renaissance without having to interact with any Black clientele or performers. This divided the community. There were some African Americans who obviously did not like these set of events and wanted them to stop. But there were also others who, while not liking the situation either, felt that at least the Black culture was finally being accepted in America. But many people came to Harlem to enjoy the atmosphere, to dance, and to generally have a good time. The music, artwork, plays, and poetry showed the United States and the world that Black people have contributed much more to society than previously acknowledged. The Harlem Renaissance in itself was a civil rights movement. Artistic styles and community development transcended Harlem and reached not only the surrounding communities of its time, but also into the future. It inspired many and laid the foundations for the largest civil rights movements of the 1960s and influenced art for countless generations today and yet to come. I have only scraped the surface. There is so much more to the Harlem Renaissance, and I encourage all of you to learn more about this extraordinary time period in American history and to connect to it all year round. This is Mr. Barnett, and I would like to say thank you, STEM. See you next time.
For many, the 1920s evokes images of flappers and speakeasies. But for one group of Americans, the decade was also one of rebirth. It was known as the Harlem Renaissance. For the first time, African American writers, artists, and musicians won renown for their contributions to world culture. Their goal? To find outlets for group expression and self-determination as a means of achieving equality and civil rights.
Oh, now. This thing might turn into something. I ain't mistaken. Here comes something now.
Himself, Izzy Sanabria.
What is salsa? Salsa is flavor and spice. Salsa is Latin soul. Salsa is ritmo, rhythm. It started in Africa con la conga, skin on wood.
Y si la rumba lo llama, el hombre dice Rafi, prepárame los timbales, porque ahora me voy a rumbear y no quiero a nadie, oye, que me pare.
What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun? Or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load. Or does it explode?
Dear Tim and Moby, what was the Civil Rights Movement? From Miss Cole's Advisory.
The Civil Rights Movement was about having universal rights for all people, regardless of gender, income, or skin color. It's hard to believe, but America in the first half of the 20th century was a very different place. In many parts of the country, black people weren't allowed to eat at the same lunch tables, go to the same schools, or even use the same bathrooms as white people. This practice of separating blacks and whites was called segregation. Well, no, and that's the astonishing thing. It was all legal under the Jim Crow laws, a set of rules governing how blacks and whites were allowed to mix.
The very next year, the Civil Rights Act of 1964 outlawed all discrimination based on race, religion, sex, or ethnicity. Public facilities could no longer be segregated, and businesses would have to make an effort to hire a more diverse workforce. The door to racial equality had opened, but there was still a long way to go. New laws were just the beginning. It took years of struggle before they were fully enforced. Well, changing people's prejudices, that's something no law can fix. African Americans have continued to face violence and discrimination, but dedicated activists are keeping the world's attention on the issue. The legacy of the civil rights movement lives on in these new generations.
Welcome everyone to our Black History Month trivia. Which black activist was wanted by the FBI but also had a song made for them by the Rolling Stones? Is it Assata Shakur, Angela Davis, or Martin Luther King Jr.? The answer is Angela Davis.
Here's a quick intro on Angela Davis.
And I just have one question to ask you first. How do you identify?
Okay, I identify as a communist, abolitionist, internationalist, anti-racist, anti-capitalist, feminist, black, queer, activist, pro-working class, revolutionary, intellectual community builder.
Amazing.
Angela Davis is an activist, educator, scholar, and politician. She was inducted into the National Women's Hall of Fame and was involved with the Black Panther Party and the Black Liberation Army. She has actively fought for Black liberation and continues to do so. Now on to our next question.
Which civil rights activist was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2013? Bayard Rustin, A. Philip Randolph, or Coretta Scott King? The answer is Bayard Rustin.
Bayard Rustin. He promoted nonviolent actions for change. He was chief organizer of Historic March on Washington. He was also a mentor to Martin Luther King Jr., and he was an openly gay Black man who bravely advocated for the LGBTQ+ community.
Who was considered the most influential author during the 1950s through 1960s? Ralph Ellison, Alex Haley, James Baldwin. The answer is James Baldwin.
James Baldwin was one of the 20th century's greatest writers. He broke new literary ground with the exploration of racial and social issues. During his time, he joined the Congress of Racial Equality and traveled across the American South lecturing on his views of racial inequality.
Thank you for participating and happy Black History Month. Okay,
One day, when the glory comes, it will be ours, it will be ours. Oh, one day, when the war is won, we will be sure, we will be sure. Oh, glory.
Did this to him. You shot 4 bullets into him, sir. He was just getting his license and registration, sir.
Hands to the heavens, no man, no weapon formed against, yes, glory is destined. Everyday women and men become legends. Sins that go against our skin become blessings. The movement is a rhythm to us. Freedom is like religion to us. Justice is juxtaposition in us. Justice for all just ain't specific enough. One son died, his spirit is revisiting us. True and living in us. Resistance is us. That's why Rosa sat on the bus. That's why we walk through Ferguson with our hands up.
One day, when the glory comes, it will be ours, it will be ours. Oh, one day, when the war is won, we will be sure, we will be sure. Oh, glory, glory, glory. Oh, glory, glory.
My twins were born when Barack Obama won the presidency. That inauguration was one of the most hopeful moments of my life. When he won, I had 2 babies laying on my chest. I got a little choked up because I'm looking at the next generation and that they're always gonna know this as opposed to hoping for it the way I had to when I was a kid. When he was sworn in, about 1.8 million people went to DC to witness President Obama, the son of a black father from Kenya and a white mother from Kansas, become the first black US president. Obama was the first African American to win the White House, but there were others who came before him and had their names on the ballot. In 1888, Frederick Douglass became the first black man nominated to be a presidential candidate, just 18 years after African American men were given the right to vote. In 1968, Shirley Chisholm became the first black female U.S. Congresswoman, and then 4 years later became the first black woman to make a major party bid to be president. In 2005, Condoleezza Rice became the first black woman and second woman ever to be Secretary of State in the United States. Just over 40 years before Obama's inauguration, many African Americans couldn't even vote. The Voting Rights Act of 1965 helped overcome a lot of legal barriers that were put in place to prevent black people from getting to the polls. Back when that was passed, there were 6 black members of Congress. There's still a long way to go, but today, there are more than 50. In honor of Black History Month, take a moment to thank Barack Obama and all the black politicians who changed history.
Five record-shattering black athletes in the world. What can be said about Jerry Rice that hasn't been said already? He holds so many NFL records, it's difficult to just highlight one, making him NFL Network's #1 greatest NFL player in their list of 100 players in history. Rice currently holds over 100 NFL records, the most of any player. However, Rice's most impressive record just might be his record-shattering 208 career touchdowns. The closest to this record is Emmitt Smith with 175. The fastest man on earth. Usain Bolt is one impressive athlete. He holds the record for both the 100 and 200 meter dash. In the 100 meter dash, he improved the time from 9.74 to 9.72, 9.69, and finally to the record 9.58 seconds in 2009. That puts Bolt's speed at 27.8 miles per hour, a mind-blowing speed for any human being. They didn't call him the fastest man on earth for nothing. The fastest woman of all time. Considering how often records are broken in the world of track and field, it is an astonishing feat to have your record stand for over 30 years. That's what Florence Griffith Joyner has been able to accomplish. Joyner set the best time for the 100 meter and 200 meter back in 1988 with style, and it has not been broken ever since. She went on to win 3 gold medals in the 1988 Olympics. Unfortunately, she retired from sports shortly after and lost her life 10 years after her record-setting Olympic performance. America's greatest athlete. Serena Williams is not only considered one of the greatest tennis players of all time, but she may also be America's greatest athlete. Serena Williams has so many records under her belt, but her most impressive one might be the length of time she has dominated on the court. Serena won her first Grand Slam title in 1999, and for the 20 years since, she has continued as the queen of tennis. She is the first player to ever win a major in 3 different decades. In the 43-year history of the Women Tennis Association, there has been 24 other women ranked #1. Serena has beat 20 of them. And the 4 she didn't beat were the ones who retired before her career began. One last record, Serena has won $88 million in career prize money. That is more than any other female athlete in the world. The most points in a single NBA game. A player has scored 60 or more points in a single game in NBA history 69 times, and only 4 players have scored 60 or more points on more than one occasion. Michael Jordan has done it 5 times, Kobe Bryant 6 times, Elgin Baylor 4 times, but the legendary Wilt Chamberlain has done it an astonishing 32 times. And only 1 player has scored 100 points in a single game. You guessed it, Mr. Wilt Chamberlain. Chamberlain scored 100 points for the Philadelphia Warriors on March 2, 1962 against the New York Knicks. He also set the record for the most free throws made in a single game. During that season, Chamberlain averaged a record 50.4 points per game. Unfortunately, the Warriors vs. Knicks game was not televised and no video footage of it exists. There's only audio recording of the game's 4th quarter.
My initial reaction to Kaepernick's decision to kneel during the national anthem, I was surprised he took such a strong stand.
I thought that it was an absolute display of reverence.
We're so used to athletes making this much money and having this image, and you protect the image and you protect your money, and he didn't care about those things.
I hope the young people that were watching can understand the volume of a silent protest. When Colin Kaepernick chose not to stand for the national anthem in 2016, he said it was a statement of support for oppressed people of color.
It was a direct response to police brutality against African Americans.
Kaepernick's silent protest and the movement that came after started a national debate. A lot of people said Kaepernick was just exercising his right to freedom of speech.
Other people, including President Trump and eventually the NFL, said kneeling during the anthem was disrespectful.
But Kaepernick hasn't backed down, and his protest follows a long history of black athletes making statements against injustice.
In 1967, Muhammad Ali was stripped of his heavyweight title after refusing to serve in the Vietnam War. He said he didn't want to go to war for a country that didn't respect him.
In 1968, Olympic sprinters John Carlos and Tommy Smith raised their fists while wearing black gloves on the podium during the anthem to protest the treatment of black people in America. All of these people used their voices to shed light on an issue, and all of them inadvertently became the center of a heated debate.
After the 2016 season, Kaepernick became a free agent, and to date, he has not been signed by another team.
Kaepernick became the face of Nike's global ad campaign while still in a legal battle with the NFL. In honor of Black History Month, take a moment to remember everyone
who has spoken up or who's kneeled down,
even when it wasn't popular.
This is the birthplace where it all began.
Watch me now.
How the crowds respond when you drop a lot.
Oh, crazy, man. Stop it, man.
They had this incredible sound system.
Rock, 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 rock. T.
You never seen nothing like it. It's the next generation ushering in a new idea.
Swinging with the boys in tune, and the feet flying up in the air.
Hold up. You're taking this rock rap thing too far.
Something had to be able to give upward motion and strength and pride. You got words, you got a voice, use it.
We at the crib, you getting fed with a bib. Sick track with the ad-lib. We said take this beat and fill it in. There's been a lot on my mind lately. Making music, y'all be hating. Now I'm debating if I should meet Satan. But I'm not, cause I'm chilled and laid back. Just a setback. Soulless air, I'm chilling, spilling my feeling on this pad with this pen. Hatred can become poison. You dealing with a few true villains, not boys to men. Baboons, goons, I'll make it to iTunes without autotunes. Cause I'm quick-witted with every lyric spitted. Yeah, my future is tailor-fitted and I just did it on the mic. Yeah, I'ma sound loud, bumping me in the streets like I was 50. OGs, they see the old damn in me. I got war and peace and war. You never heard anything like this before. Yeah, the legend come true. Nah, just folklore. Dumbledore, I rule. Go do your chores. Yeah, I'm on stage while you be working at the door of a liquor store. Knowledge yourself.
Oh, we ain't finished. Where do I go when I seek truth and wisdom? A euphemism. Does it come from analyzing all my isms? Put in a prism. That instead of a refracted surface reflects what's within, giving you a glimpse of every single place that I've been. My blessings and my sins, the lessons and experiences to pass down to your kin. Now hold your head up to the sky and let me see your chin. This one's for those that feel like they've never known what it's like to win. We want affirmation, that's others for validation. Claim to believe in yourself, that's just a small representation. But no manifestation gotta bring it to fruition. No matter how big a dream, it all starts with a vision. The accession of a procession with perfect precision. The intellectual surgeon measuring your brain for the incision. To simply raise awareness of potential is my mission. I'll leave the ball in your court so you can make all the decisions.
It's my privilege tonight
to introduce to you someone who has reached only the level of myth. Miss Tina Turner.
Let's dance, last chance for love. Yes, it's my last chance for romance tonight. I need you by me, beside me, to guide me, to hold me, to scold me. 'Cause when I'm bad, I'm so bad. So let's dance, the last dance, let's dance, the last dance, let's dance, the last dance tonight. Let's dance for love. Yes, it's my last chance for romance tonight. To hold me, to scold me. 'Cause when I'm bad, I'm so bad. So let's dance, the last dance, let's dance, the last dance, let's dance, the last dance tonight. Oh.
Took a half and she took the whole thing. Slow down, baby. We took a trip, now we on your block and it's like a ghost town, baby.
This is what you came for. Always twice every time she moves. And everybody's watching her, but she's looking at you. Ride it all, killing me softly, and I'm still falling. Still the one I need. I will always be with you. Oh.
sure. And when I tell you that you're beautiful, you can't be sure. Cause he don't seem to want you back, and it's got you asking. So all you see is what you lack and not what you packing.
American culture at this point, what is truly American, is black culture to a large degree.
It's electric. You gotta feel it. It's electric. Woo. Time zone. Jump on it. Jump on it. Jump on it. Forming and designing while we're sitting on stage.
Well, it's the Cabbage Patch Jazz and it's a brand new craze.
So get away.
Never trust a big button to smile. That girl is so good.
I do the Humpty Hump. Come on, I do the Humpty Hump. Check me out, y'all. I do the Humpty Hump. Just watch me do the Humpty Hump. Yeah. Stop. Hammer time.
Cha-cha real smooth. Let's go to work.
1, 2 step. I love it. 1, 2 step. Everybody 1, 2 step. This beat.
Lean with it. Walk with it. Lean with it. Walk with it. Lean with it. Walk with it. Lean with it. Walk with it.
Now walk it out. 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 Now west side walk it out. South side walk it out. East side walk it out. North side walk it out. Now hit the dance.
Chest, pants, shoes. Shoulders, chest, pants, shoes. Cause I'm on white. Cause I'm on white. Cause I'm on white. Cause I'm on white. Cause I'm
Soldier boy, I'm in it. Why me crack it? Why me roll? Why me crack that soldier boy? That Superman. That now why me crack that soldier? 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 Now what?
Lock and drop it. Pop, lock and drop it. Pop, lock and drop it. Pop, lock and drop it. Pop,
My dugget, my dugget, my dugget, my dugget, my dugget, my
She roll down, sugar daddy. Come on, let me see you do the trick.
baby wobble, baby wobble, baby wobble. Get it now. Get it now.
You're a jerk. You're a jerk. You're a jerk. 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 Jerk.
Fiddle with that flex, fiddle with that flex, fiddle with that flex. He gon' be begging for some more. Do the stanky leg, do the stanky leg, do the stanky leg when I hit the dance floor. I'm certain, I'm swag, I'm certain, I'm swag, I'm certain, I'm feeling like this determined on patrol. Who say with it? Who say with it? Who say with it? Who say with it? Now do that, do that, do that thing. Now do your thing.
I really rock on any block. I really rock on any block. Whip, kill it. Now watch me nay nay. Okay. Now watch me whip, whip. Watch me nay nay. Why me do it? Now watch me whip.
Look at my down. Look at my down. Look at my down. Look at my down.
Hit the quad, hit the quad, hit the quad, hit the quad. At night I think of you. I want to be your lady.
Juju on that beat, juju on that beat, juju on that, juju on that, juju on that beat. I just wanna rollie with a dapper ranch. I already got some designer to hold on my pants. I just want some ice.
First time I heard about Alvin Ailey, I was probably 13 years old. Seeing them was the realization of a dream. These are performers that look like me. Alvin watched his mother and the elders in the church with the fans and turned that into iconic imagery. He took our everyday and he gave us back beauty. He gave us back fine art. Alvin Ailey was a visionary dancer and choreographer. He grew up in Texas, surrounded by racial segregation and violence, and eventually moved to New York to perform. In 1958, he formed his own dance company, the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater. Mr. Ailey not only revolutionized African-American concert dance, but he made the entire genre of modern dance popular. In 1960, his timeless work, Revelations, was first performed. Today, almost 60 years later, Revelations is the most seen and most famous piece of modern dance the world over. Alvin Ailey lives on with a world-famous dance company and dance school, but even Alvin laid the foundation for his legacy on the accomplishments of a host of black performers and choreographers who made their mark before him. In 1910, Bert Williams became the first black performer to appear on Broadway as an equal alongside white cast members in the Ziegfeld Follies. Mr. Ailey was actually inspired by another pioneer in dance named Katherine Dunham, who in 1931 created one of the first black ballet companies in the US. Alvin Ailey helped fuel and inspire generations of black performers. Today, the group Alvin Ailey founded has performed for an estimated 23 million people in 71 countries. In honor of Black History Month, take a moment to remember Alvin Ailey, a legendary and prolific choreographer who changed the world of dance forever.
Down on the beat.
Sexy ladies want part with us. Shake, shake that thing, miss. Can I shake that thing, miss? Donna, Jody and Rebecca. Woman, get busy. Just shake that booty non-stop when the beat drop. Just keep swinging it, get jiggy. Get pumped up, percolate anything you want. Because it oscillate the hip and down. Sexy ladies want.
It's the kind of beat that go.
Yeah.
I found you, girl, I like being around you. Feel like Kanye, I'm bound to. Shawty, if you down, I'm down too. Yeah, I found you, girl, I like being around you. Feel like Kanye, I'm bound to. Shawty, if you down, I'm down too. Yeah.
Dead. It's not the end. It's Marvey, stepping off point.
walls I built, well, baby, they're tumbling down. And they didn't even put up a fight. They didn't even make a sound. I found a way to let you in, but I never really had a doubt. Standing in the light of your halo, I got my angel now. It's like I've been awakened. Every rule I had you breaking. It's the risk that I'm taking. I ain't never gonna shut you out. Everywhere I'm looking now, I'm surrounded by your embrace. Baby, I can see your halo. You know you're my saving grace. You're everything I need and more. It's written all over your face. Baby, I can feel your halo. Pray it won't fade away. See your halo. You see your halo. Hit me like a ray of sun, burning through my darkest night. You're the only one that I want. Think I'm addicted to your light. I swore I'd never fall again, but this don't even feel like falling. Gravity can't begin to pull me back to the ground again. It was like I've been awakened. Every rule I had you breaking.